Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. We're doing another talking head in the van video today. This is take two. I don't like to edit things. I don't like to mess with the video editing software. Might get back to that. I might have to do some montage work, especially with the van project. Today we're not doing any van projects. We are in a holding pattern a bit. It's been a little drizzly off and on, and one of the things that I need to do right now, one of the next steps, is to try to polish out the van paint job a little bit. I'm not going to make it perfect. I have that baked, flaky, sunburned, damaged clear coat on some of the regular parts of the paint job, and then the custom parts, the quote-unquote custom parts of the paint job that you get with a conversion van, the pinstripe stuff and the gray color on the layers and the fiberglass top. And that all seems to have a different kind of clear coat or a different lacquer or something different, and it chips off clear. Like it just peels off clear, but it's not like it doesn't all want to peel. Lots of good adhesion, but it's got an edge and it's got flaky bits, but it's not the same as automotive clear coat. Like it's totally different clear coat. Anyway, I need to wet sand, polish, paint cleaner. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. But I'm going to use some sort of compound and just try to get it all shiny and then just wax it. Just make it look as good as possible. And the part of part of the reason for that, of course, is to avoid harassment. The simple fact is that if you're doing things that are outside of regular civilized consciousness, the regular memeplex, then you're going to be seen as other, and there's going to be some sort of threat of harassment or whatever. It's part of civilization. It's just part of the way that things are. It doesn't matter if you're left wing, right wing, religious, atheist, none of this matters. You have that civilizational memeplex, and the other is dangerous, whatever. There, of course, Robert Anton Wilson talked about futant mutants, the people who look forward, look towards the future, who want the change and want the freakiness and everything. And there's some of that. But even within that, if you're in a civilizational consciousness, post-conquest consciousness, in one person's phrasing, there's still the other to contend with here. So I'm very much an other. I'm just going to try to make the van look as little abused as possible. It's a sunburned van. It's been out in the weather, and I'm going to try to shine it up as much as I can because it just keeps things looking suburban. Suburban is anonymous. I'm not going to paint this thing black because that's the opposite of invisible. The black rattle can paint job. It's not going to be a gray or a white van. It's just not going to look like that. It's a fancy red custom conversion van from the late 90s. I can at least make it look like a well-kept 25-year-old conversion van. It's hard to remember that these things age out. The ages of these things are so extended. Automotive technology changed so much just between that whole 1980-1990 period, and cars started lasting so much longer that by the time you look at something like a 91 Ford, you're looking at 300, 400,000 miles. If you take care of it, if you do the occasional, transmission change, there's going to have to be a transmission rebuild in there. If you do all the servicing and stuff, you can get a 400,000 mile engine out of it. You can certainly get the body and frame to last, and you can get it to kind of still look good. You've got rolling classics around like never before in history. It's amazing stuff. And this one, this is a 97, I guess. It's the first year of that next generation of Econoline. Econolines don't follow the normal generation patterns, but it's it's a very good, well kept van. except that it just sat for a couple of years. And so that's what I'm going to be polishing out, is the effects of sat for a couple of years in the weather, in the sun. So we're working on that. More key fobs, more security key fobs have come in. This is just old enough to have one of the weirder and more difficult to find key fobs for the Ford System 6. It's not the System 3 or the System 4. It's this weird System 6 security system, which they used in a lot of Lincolns, I guess. A lot of the more upscale Lincolns. But the company that made the alarm system also did Kias. So some Kia remotes from a later era work with these vans. Like, it's all a very strange thing. I learned way too much about this over the weekend doing the research. It's quite a thing. So talking head video, we're talking about memes, we're talking about, I don't really want to get into like the whole cultural harassment thing. You've got this in your head. You know, there's this memeplex, there's this cultural memeplex, a set of programs and ideas that sits above your human level consciousness, that it kind of defends itself. It kind of wants to be there. Like, civilization wants to be there, even if it crushes humanity. So that's why we call it a memeplex, like memetics. And it's there, you know. It's not necessarily bad or necessarily good. And, you know, you don't want to get rid of it completely. As much fun as it might be to be a Mesolithic wandering hunting shaman, you know, Middle Stone Age, no crops, no herding, just wild running. As much fun as that might be, it's not going to happen. Like, the world isn't there. So we've got to take this memeplex and kind of massage it and twist it and play with it a little bit and see if we can get it to be a little bit better with humans. And that's one of the things that's going on with the whole high-tech nomad movement, but the whole exploration, the whole project I'm doing, trying to figure out where to tweak that memeplex and how to work it with this kind of post-materialist, post-industrialist, post-scarcity. People talk about post-scarcity and they don't mean what I mean by it, but all that stuff. The type of scarcity that you get in the civilizational memeplex is that thing that you owe society your life, you owe society your labor, you owe society your commitment, you so owe society your freedom of choice, you owe, and there's not really a lot of room for freedom. And if you do choose freedom, if you do go through a phase where you're just out there, then the deeper civilizational memeplex hates you. You know, there are societies that escape that. Like, some parts of Scandinavia, you've got this idea of wandering, just going off for a couple of years and wandering and figuring out your life or whatever, you know? And that's a fantastic thing. I think we need more of that. I think that's actually one of the big things that technology is giving us right now. We have a longer productive lifespan than we've had since before civilization. You know, civilization killed us, right? It took us from, if you survived to adulthood before civilization, you're probably going to make it to your 70s. People don't like to think about that. People will deny it. People will look at it and be like, oh, no, the average age of death was 14 or something. And it's not true. Like, you can really just look at it and it's not true. You know, and it wasn't a harsh survival of the fittest. If you broke your leg, they would leave you behind and you would be eaten by saber-tooths. That's actually not true. We have plenty of evidence of people, even people with long-term chronic disease, being cared for in Mesolithic, pre-civilizational times. So, you know, civilization comes along, and with it comes all of these civilization memeplex, the conquest consciousness stuff, and we start owning humans, like really owning humans. Chattel slavery. In fact, writing was invented to keep track of the numbers and the taxes, grain and slaves, and other livestock. And it's very clear in the record that slaves and livestock were the same thing in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways. They were considered the same. So that's, and anyway, people started dying in their 30s instead of their 70s as a regular course because that's just how civilization works. It kind of grungy and dirty and full of disease and horror. Well, we're past all that, right? Civilization has come and started delivering on the promises. So now we need to change the memeplex, and we need to figure out how to take this re-extended, productive, useful, utilitarian lifespan and make it humane, make it really work for people. And so that's what we're doing. I think that the nomadism, the ability to move, the fundamental human right to get the fuck out is part of that, okay? Choose where you live, choose how you live, choose your stuff. Increasingly we see this, and it's not just in the upper classes. I had an argument last week with someone trying to talk about this project, and they were like, oh yeah, totally. Like the ability to not have to learn the language, the ability of the computer translators and the electronic systems so you didn't have to deal with those third world people and their money has been a huge boon. And I'm just like, well, my idea of nomadism wasn't first world rich expats using technology so that they didn't have to deal with those poor third world people. It's not really how I think of things, but okay, it's valid. Like, yeah, technology's totally helped you with that. You can go anywhere and not speak the language, and you don't have to deal with the money. You can use your electronic payments. Great. So there's more to this. I promise you there's more to this. There's more to the freedom. There's more to the idea that you could do work remotely. There's more to the idea that the abundance that you have, you don't know you have. We are so full of abundance. We don't actually know how little you can live on, And that's a lot of what I'm getting at with this. So this turned into a ramble and a little bit of a rant, and I'm just about done, Talking head day, but we'll see what we get done with the van tomorrow. I'm not on a timeline on this right now, so much as I am just doing what I'm doing. We are, I've still got to work on the horn and the basic electronics on the dash. There's some little stuff, just glitchy stuff that I got to deal with. And it's not hard. It's just a tight, confined space, and I don't want to actually unbolt the driver's seat to do the work. So that's about it. What else? First tank of gas. That's a note. Only 16 miles to the gallon, but there was a lot of maintenance work in there, a lot of city driving. There was a certain amount of just letting the engine idle while I was messing around with stuff. So, and city driving just sucks. So that's really good. I think 16 is really good. 15, 16 with my gentle hyper mile driving in town is still a really good result. I should be able to hit 18 to 20 on the highways, provided I drive like a little old lady from some other part of the country and do 60, 65 miles an hour instead of doing 80. So we'll see how that goes. That's actually easier on the smaller back roads sometimes. We'll see how it goes. Got to start looking up campgrounds because I really want to work on that campground idea, that base camp idea. So we'll see how that goes. I'll talk more about that when we get closer to that, I think. In the meantime, stay sideways. Have a good day.